So this might be a little bit of a sprawling video, but I had some things on my mind I wanted to speak on. I'm at the land now, got out here for a little bit today, and I was joking with a friend of mine coming here today that, you know, a growing part of me just wants to be out here, and the money I do have, spend it on the land and on food and stuff, and like stop earning money and then just be out here until I die. Which is mostly a joke, but the idea of spending more time out here is absolutely something I want, and I might do a little bit more of an extended sabbatical this summer. The gap between how present I feel out here versus not here is pretty overwhelming, or it's just it's accelerating in the size of the gap with like the state of how things are in the USA right now and all the organizing that I was doing, have been doing. I just can't describe the difference of presence here versus being quote unquote plugged in, you know. And it's brought up some real questions in my mind of like the notion of like what is reality, of interpreting reality from moment to moment. What is worthy to pursue? And a big part of the what is reality piece is the idea of being go, 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 and having an insane amount of stimulus, information overload, especially in a digital age, which I think the current political times, it just throws that much more fuel on the fire. Like in the span of, you know, an hour, you could be consuming an incredible amount of information. And the degree to which that breeds, even if you're doing whatever you're doing all day for like righteous reasons, or you're organizing, how quickly life can shift from proactive, intentional, present-centered to now I'm just essentially addicted to stimulus, dopamine, the next like momentary thrill, right? Whether that's looking up at looking at headlines or going online and responding to comments or whatever it is. Like even the ways in which it's understandable but scary to just completely lose sight of what am I thinking, feeling in this moment, how am I moving, am I being intentional? And I think more and more folks are not. And that's one thing I realized about this moment we're in, like beyond this fascist moment in the United States, the idea that we live in a container in which we consume so much stimulus and information that it literally is quite impossible to feel present or be present. And especially when the nature of that information stimulus overload is dividing, divisive, or appealing to, you know, parts of us that need actually soothing, parts of us that are traumatized. When I step back and I look at those containers that we're in, I don't really have an interest in, even if we get past this fascist moment, continuing to be in these containers where people are made to flail. People are made to constantly be reactive, both in terms of like seizing on things like cynicism or anger or frustration or hate within, but then even just practically day to day, like being able to make ends meet and pay your bills and feed yourself. And the bigger trajectory I see with technology, with AI, is this notion of doing more and more and more, or like the idea of like people being piled on with information and stimulus. That notion isn't, or that phenomenon isn't going away, of course. And that's not somewhere I want to live. And I think this is an issue of it's not an individual thing. It's a system thing. It's a container thing. It's an ecosystem thing. Like, there's frustration, for example. It just manifests in a lot of different ways, and I'm kind of all over the place. But like, people have expressed frustration, myself included, about how more folks aren't waking up to this fascist moment and getting involved. Well, in a way, I don't take away onus from the individual, but again, the containers that we're in, being able to plug in a way that feels like tangible, concrete, reliable, and the parts of us that might be hesitant from engaging, where there might be blocks or defenses that we have, fears that we're not even maybe scarcely aware, or we're barely aware of why I might resisting. The containers we're in, I don't think allow for any notion of that. If anything, it's the opposite. Like, if I have fears about where we are as a society and I want to get involved, just the sheer flood of stimulus around the whole area of politics, of organizing, the fragmentation of it, and the opportunities to, for example, question, where's my best use? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do that? The disorientation and the self-questioning that, and the doubt, both outer and inner, that comes from that is really strong. And the person that is shut down because of all of those dynamics, I don't think it's really on them that they're not acting. Because we're made to be in these containers that, like, the circumstances that we're in kind of preclude our ability to proactively, independently act. And again, that's about just like sheer volume of physical information we're getting. And from a mental health standpoint, what rings true for me more is that how current circumstances seize on aspects of our inner world, especially trauma, that are impacting how we move, what we do and what we don't do. And the idea that these mechanisms don't encourage us to, there isn't a path for like leaning into those things when this happens, those forces inside of us. You either don't have time, or you're made to shame, or you shame yourself because you're like, I'm not engaged as much as I should be. And the parts that are blocking you are made to feel shame and guilt versus being leaned into. I mean, all that to say, this isn't just about this moment. For me, like, the caught between worlds that I'm feeling is much more about the bigger picture of what is the nature of reality. How do we make meaning? How do we, are we high on all the mechanisms that we have to get information, interact with others, and all the stuff, in a way where we're not really presently experiencing all that stuff that we're that we're exposed to. And so that feels like my Buddhism stuff is a huge part of this, of course, like being present centered and I don't know. It's all like swirling around in my head. I'll probably try to make a more succinct video about it later. Bye bye.